Bear with me. Okay. And just so everybody knows, we're going to keep everyone on mute for a few minutes at least as we go through the kind of the beginning part of the meeting, which is just a short overview presentation. And then really 75 to 80% of the meeting is a discussion. So as soon as we get into that part of the meeting, we'll let everybody come off mute and provide their feedback. But as we're talking at the beginning, you can also feel free to send a note in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can call on you. But like I said, we'll just kind of get rolling here. So my name is Adam Rosa. I'm with Collabo Planning and Design. We are the planning coordinators for this effort, which means we're really here to help to facilitate the conversations and to take everyone's feedback and to make a plan from it. So we are really excited to have you all on the call here today. And I'm going to share my screen and we'll run through a short presentation. Very short. Okay. So some of this is probably familiar to some of you because I know you've been involved over the last year on this project. But for those of you who are new, just want to give everybody a little bit of a refresher. So this is the West Ward Choice Neighborhoods Plan. And Easton was one of, I think it was 8 cities in the country that were awarded a Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant in 2020. And from that, we've been working with the community and with residents of the Housing Authority of the City of Easton properties within the West Ward to start to create what's called the Choice Neighborhoods Plan. And so Choice Neighborhoods is really focused on these 3 circles, these 3 kind of legs of the stool. It's about neighborhoods, obviously the West Ward in this case. It's about housing. So we're focused on the Housing Authority properties, but we're also looking at a broader lens of affordable housing issues within the larger West Ward neighborhood. And then the people element of the plan is really about connecting folks to opportunities and to create the ladders for success for local residents to improve their quality of life. And I think that's a lot of what we're going to focus on here today with the equity and inclusion working group. So our planning area is essentially the entire West Ward from about 6th Street on the east all the way to 15th in the city limits on the west. We go up north to about Bushkill Creek and south to the Lehigh River. So everybody's pretty familiar with this area at this point, but I think one thing that we just want to point out is that we had in our application to HUD, we had to identify a target housing site, a single site. So in this case, it's the Housing Authority North Union Street Apartments, which are right located here in the yellow circle. And we've also been thinking about this as an asset-based planning effort. So building on the strong foundation that currently exists in the West Ward, all of the different people and programs that are currently available and trying to connect the dots. But the overall area is a little under 10,000 residents and about a square mile in size. And the process that we've been utilizing has been unfolding like this. So we spent the first part of our first year doing a lot of listening and learning, moving in last summer into the visioning element, which has kind of set the stage for what we're doing here today, which is really getting into the strategies, programs, and projects. From this, we'll be developing the people, housing, and neighborhood elements of the plan. Our draft plan is due to HUD in about 5 months. And then from there, we'll have about another 6 months to refine the plan, moving into implementation. So our goal is to create a plan that can be successful through a number of different ways. One of those ways may be what's called a HUD Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant. So once we complete our plan, we can then reapply for somewhere between $30 and $50 million from HUD to begin to implement the housing plan, to begin to get some people projects going, and to do critical neighborhood improvements. So that's the big, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But along the way, we're looking for other ways to make some of these projects happen. And so we're not just relying on that big $50 million grant to make this all work. So I just kind of wanted to set the stage for everybody with that. So the target housing site, as I mentioned, is North Union Street Apartments. And that's shown here in the aerial view. It was built in 1963, about 57 units of housing on 3 acres. And there's, at the time of when we put this together, there was 139 residents living there. So we want our people plan and the projects that come out of this group to really address some of the challenges of the people that live at North Union Street, but also support residents of the larger neighborhood. So I would say kind of our secondary target housing sites are the Housing Authority's Bushkill House, which is about a block north of the North Union Street property. That's 48 units of senior and disabled housing. And then we have the Elm Street Apartments, which are in the southern part of the neighborhood, and that's about 55 units of housing. So through this effort, we've identified a series of working groups. And as I mentioned, this is the first of many working group meetings with these 5 groups overall. So we have equity and inclusion, community health and safety, housing and business, transportation, open space, art, history, and culture. And we understand that there's a lot of overlap between these groups, and the projects that come out of one group may be very well connected and synced with a project that comes out of another group. So it's kind of our job to distill all this information and to make sure we're connecting the dots between all of the 5 groups. So what we're doing today builds directly off of some larger community feedback that we've gathered over the first year. And you can see the poster on the screen here. This was a result of our visioning event, which we held in August of 2021. I'm losing track of the years at this point. August of 2021, and we asked people to provide feedback around these 5 different categories of topics, which are leading into the working groups. So I just wanted to kind of reflect on where all this feedback came from. And then we brought this to our steering committee, and they kind of added another layer of feedback and ideas on top of it. So that's our kind of our jumping off point for today's discussion. And our other jumping off point is a resident needs assessment survey that we conducted at all 3 of the Housing Authority properties. And this was a pretty robust survey effort. I think we had somewhere between 80 and 100 questions. We spent several months out in the neighborhood, door knocking, having small events, providing different ways for people to complete the survey and to give us their feedback. And I think all in with the 3 properties, we reached about 70% of the Housing Authority residents completing the survey. So that's another kind of data layer that we're using for the plan, because we want the projects that we develop to kind of have a baseline metric that we can associate with the project, and then thinking about how we can move the needle on that metric. So for example, if there's, well, I would say a project where people say 20% of the community has a hard time accessing healthy food. We might want to say, well, our goal is to lower that percentage down to 5 or 10%. That's a reasonable goal. And I'm just kind of picking up numbers here, but that's how we're going to be using these metrics to help to track the projects and the success of the projects in the future. So I also want to give a shout out to our community ambassadors who have been really instrumental in gathering this feedback and helping kind of set the table for today's discussions. All right, now for the fun part of the meeting. Enough of me talking. So we're going to go and utilize this online platform as soon as I can pull it up here. Okay, so everybody should see this on the screen. It's called our Mural Board. And what it is basically it's an online bulletin board that we can use to review information, but also put up sticky notes and kind of gather ideas. So I thought, I guess just to orient everybody here, we have the neighborhood map at the top if we need to reference anything. we have all 5 of the working groups here. We're going to be focused on the blue section, which is equity and inclusion. So we have our vision mind map where we gathered a lot of ideas, and I'm going to kind of go through this. So we can add stickies all over this thing. We can also come down here and add additional ideas. And then we also have some survey data that we can that we want to share with you, and just, you know, again, as a jumping off point for the larger discussion. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Andrea, and she's just going to quickly go over some of what we've learned through the survey at this point. Andrea?
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to see all of you guys here. My name is Andrea. I am with Adam at Collabo, and I have been on the ground and visiting the Westward neighborhood of Easton several times a month for the last 6-ish months. So you probably seen me around. I am probably known as the survey lady. Because it really was a huge effort to get out the surveys to all of our residents out there and to make sure that we're engaging and that everybody is able to respond and give us the feedback to the best of their ability, right? So we just finished the data collection this last week. We are in the middle of processing the results to make them more official. What usually comes out of the surveys is a report that we are able to share, and this report informs the proposals, and this report informs the discussion that we have here. So, like I said, we just finished the data collection this last week. And the quickest takeaways that we got from just looking at the survey without completely processing it yet is that the most popular comment about current apartments is that they are too small. So we hear the residents in their needs of more space. The residents indicated that the most required business in the neighborhood are groceries, laundromat, health clinic, and police stations. The residents also mentioned that kitchens, bathrooms, and closets are the areas that most need improvements, and they would really like to have more access or facilitate access to laundries, gyms, health clinics, cafe, and game room, or a popular indoor communal area would be really great in helping improve the quality of life of residents. The residents also said that transportation is the most impactful barrier to services. They said that the most required things are, for example, outdoor recreation spaces like barbecue space, like playgrounds. They would like to see improvements in the parking facilities and improvements in security cameras and public lighting. They said that the main environmental barrier to physical activity is that there's nowhere to walk or exercise in the neighborhood. So now we are talking about walkability, right? We identified that 49% of residents do not drive. So what does this mean? That probably we should be engaging with our transportation authority and start brainstorming things that could possibly solve transportation issues for the residents, right? So this is just an example of how we are anticipating these working groups to work. We talk about issues, and we are hoping that all of the stakeholders around the table right now are able to help us brainstorm with possible solutions or identifying possible causes of the issues, and we go from there. So really quickly, I am moving the board. So there is definitely more information coming out from the survey. But I definitely invite all of you guys to stay connected, and we will be sharing the report when it as we finalize the data processing.
Thanks, Andrea. So what we're going to do now is kind of get into the equity and inclusion feedback that we've heard so far, and I'm hoping everybody can see this on their screen. If not, hopefully I can kind of verbalize it. But again, this comes from our community vision event that we had in the summer. kind of overlaid with additional feedback from our steering committee. So let me just start at the top here. So residents and people that we've spoken to said that equity inclusion really needs to have a strong focus overall on education. That we need to be thinking about things like improving skilled communication or communication skills for residents, things like resume classes to help people get into the workforce, connected to job fairs, free language classes for English as second language residents of the West Ward. And then thinking about the different cultures, ethnicities, whether we can do things like food demonstration classes, a job board in the neighborhood where that would be highly visible. People said yet that this is the best way to unite, that the real focus on education overall. We've also heard about that inclusion is all about the opportunities to learn about other cultures. And I think it's one of the things that makes Easton and the West Ward so special is the diversity of culture and language and community background. So finding opportunities for people to learn different languages and about the cultures of the West Ward. We have comments talking about that we need programs for young children in the community. And we know that there are providers and partners in the neighborhood that are doing that today, but what else can we bring to the table? More community outreach overall, and really focusing on locations that are equitable, places where people already go, places where they get their groceries, bus stops, really trying to promote programs that are happening in the area. So somebody talked about need to look at the geography of things in the neighborhood. This was brought up in the survey before, but getting places and really the logistics of the workforce, transportation coordination, kind of the jobs, housing balance, and the transportation that connects people to where the jobs are. And we know that that's a challenge in the area, especially with our housing authority residents, where about half of them don't currently drive. Then we had some thoughts about big, larger events, holiday events, celebrations to bring people together, to celebrate the local cultures. And we also, people talked about helping businesses grow, businesses with their heart in the community. And I think that really gets to local ownership and the thought of kind of fostering an environment where people can start a business in a welcoming place. And we know that that's becoming even more of a challenge coming out of COVID, if we are coming out of COVID. Partnering with churches and cultural institutions. And then we have what we just call the more list. So things that people have continually bring up that we need more of in the community: jobs, classes, community centers, opportunities for young adults, trade tech classes, things like accessible sidewalks, and recruitment events. Okay, so that is a lot of information all at once. And what we really want to do now is take the next, hour at least, to hear your thoughts on some of what's been brought up here, these different topics, whether you want to talk about something on here that's really meaningful to you or something you think might be missing. If you have a project idea around one of these topic areas, or if you know somebody who's doing something that could be kind of plugged into this overall plan, that's what we want to hear. So I'm going to just kind of open it up here, and anyone who would like to jump in, go ahead and take yourself off mute, or you can put some feedback in the chat and we can get started. People are always so shy at the meeting. All right.
All right.
We got a couple people.
You can
Merrick,
go first.
Merrick, why don't you go first?
Hi, I'm Mark Dominic. For those who don't know me, I work in the City of Easton's Community and Economic Development Department. One of the things I noticed here, like looking at the equity and inclusion section, is kind of the focus on education. I know over here, I'm always kind of wondering how to get better technical assistance to not only business owners, but even people that are just kind of interested in, starting a business or becoming an entrepreneur. And, there's been workshops through the chamber, through Main Street, trying to get people involved and trying to learn the skills, or at least make the connections to help set them in the right path. I'm always curious how we can get these workshops and classes more enticing for residents to participate and business owners to participate, especially going into the post kind of COVID world. Some people are still not comfortable meeting in person. Some people don't want to be on Zoom anymore. It's kind of trying to find that balance. I'm curious if feedback from you guys on what's worked for you guys, what hasn't worked, and just kind of figuring out a way to kind of get the tailored education to what they're actually looking for, or like what would be useful to them as well.
Yeah, that's a great jumping off point. I'd love to hear some thoughts on that, if anyone wants to jump in on that topic.
Hi, this is Nearest
Hi, Nira.
of Elm Street. And I agree with what he just said, piggybacking on that if we can get some of the younger generation to sort of teach the older generation, because they know all of the little technical stuff, you'd be surprised. The younger, the better too, because they can teach you real quick. So I think that will be a good idea to I don't know, match up young adults with older adults. A lot of times we don't like same age teaching us because they almost sound condescending. So a kid would be more like, I don't know, bring it across to where they'll understand quicker.
Yep. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he has a good idea though.
Mm-hmm. So how do you suggest we get younger people involved or interested in doing something like that?
Wow. Again, a lot of the residents don't want to talk, like the parents.
Mm-hmm.
So almost hard to get the kids. I mean, you don't want to really talk to kids without asking the parents. So, you have to get the parents to open up before you could really say anything to the kids. Or you could probably do something like partner with schools or something like that. Because, a lot of kids that are super smart, they would love something like this.
Absolutely. Great ideas. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go over to Janine. She has her hand up.
Hi, Adam. Actually, just to piggyback what you guys were talking about, I was even thinking maybe we have a lot of great colleges kind of like in our backyard. So like Lafayette College, I know when they're in session, they definitely can provide a lot of resources as far as like holding different classes. So that might be something that's worth like looking like to tap into for classes, and especially what it was that Merrick was saying, that the one thing, it's always hard to get the word out if we're doing something like, so it would be nice to run different classes like in different spots of the community, like depending on where people live, so it's a little bit more accessible for them. And the other thing the one thing that I wanted to open up about was I was focused on where it says 49% of our residents do not drive, and about transportation, and then with education. So I was kind of thinking of, when you go to Disney World, they kind of have like that shuttle bus that will take you to all the different parks. So, oh, and I'm sorry, I work at Paxenosa Elementary School. I'm so sorry, I didn't even introduce myself. So I'm thinking along the lines, and I am a parent myself, if I'm living in the West Ward and my kids are now going in the middle school, so that's up in Forks. And if there's different events going on there, I would probably want to attend, but maybe due to transportation, I'm not able to. So I feel if we could somehow pick, I don't know, maybe like 12 hot points, like almost like a shuttle that can consecutively run, I think that would really, as for a parent, just to be able to kind of, be more involved with their students and, as their kids are getting older, I think that would be helpful too. So that was what I was thinking about. Those are the things that struck me.
Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Okay, who would like to go next? I saw a few people take themselves off mute before, so go ahead, just jump right in.
I'm jumping in. Hi
Go ahead,
guys,
Miranda.
I'm Miranda. I work at the Greater Easton Development Partnership running the community gardens. And Janine and Nearest, I think you guys both had a cool point about students coming in, and you're right, the Mosaic group under Lafayette's Landis program does a weekly programming, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, but they've been really helpful for me this past season, weekly coming in to help me with the community gardens. So, and I'm sure that's something like key clubs or service groups in high schools could also organize like a weekly step in organization. I know I got a lot out of Key Club when I was in high school. But anyway, I guess I was interested in this part of the poster about language learning. And from my perspective, it makes me feel like an outsider, even though I live in the West Ward, because I don't speak Spanish or Lebanese, while my community gardeners, are speaking Lebanese at the garden. And I don't know, I feel like there's always so much focus on English as a second language, but it would make me feel like I was a part of my community if there was some learning on both ends. So I don't know if that's been an opportunity that I've just missed, or if anyone has anything to speak to of that. But I would love to learn Spanish.
Thank you, Miranda. Now Miranda's applauding. Nearest?
I think that's a good idea that she came up with, because that's true. Living here, you have a lot of people from different ethnicities, and they have their own language, aside from English. If they're made to learn English, why shouldn't we at least have basic skills in their language? I think that would be opener for everything. It'll probably loosen people up to be to come out and and voice their opinions. But I don't think people want to voice their opinions because a lot of them really don't speak English. So
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just wanted to share a quick anecdote. Speaking with one of the residents at North Union Apartments this fall, she was a woman originally from Puerto Rico, and in Puerto Rico she had been a hairdresser, and she talked to us about how she would love to be able to find a job doing that here in the States or start her own business doing that, but her credentials that she had in Puerto Rico didn't carry over to the mainland in terms of a certification for being able to do that work. So she was kind of stuck in a rut of not knowing where to go to really to get kind of recertified in her profession, not having the transportation to get there, and then just generally not being able to use the skills that she had learned in her previous home. So, I'd love to have the group kind of think about things like that as well. with our international population, what are some of those challenges, and how can they be potentially addressed? Andrea?
One moment, I have two screens going on, and like I sometimes like lose track of which is which. So sorry about that. Thank you so much for your comments, and you are totally right, Adam. Being like walking around in the neighborhood and talking to the residents while I was doing the survey, I definitely noticed this the one of the barriers, and also it reflects on the survey data, is that one of the barriers to access to services is that there is not enough information on where or how to access those services. So maybe we can find a place on the board to put that where we could hopefully help the residents access services, or create some kind of like hub where they could find solutions to several of those needs.
That's a great point. Thanks.
And also I got excited when Miranda mentioned the cultural exchange. You're totally right about that. I have visited other community gardens in different places, and it's amazing, like the cultural exchange, language exchange, like people just start talking to each other, even if they don't speak the same language, like they start, I have seen it, like pumpkins in Spanish, we call them calabazas, and in English they're different, but I have seen people get together, and it's just a really, really cool thing when they start exchanging seeds, or one of them starts watering the plants for the other one because they got sick. Like I strongly like think that it would be a really great opportunity to find that kind of places where the cultural and language exchange goes both ways, and it's very organic.
Definitely. And I just want to capture one of the comments in the chat. It's from Tanya. So she was talking about how Easton High School has community service hour requirements. And I'm not sure if that's something, and maybe Amy, you can speak to that, if your organization has ever had high school students as help out with specific projects, or kind of act as interns around different programs. Any thoughts on that?
On what, the high schools, or?
Yeah, just the idea of utilizing some of the community service requirements that Easton High School has to put towards some of these projects, and whether any of that is currently happening in the West Ward, if the high school students are doing anything currently that we might not know about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, I don't have any young kids, so I couldn't answer that. But I believe they have, different programs, but I don't know if it's directed so much to the area
Right. Yeah.
as, I mean, the high schools are getting you ready for college. They're getting you ready for work. You know what I mean? Like you're doing programs also. So if they have any other ones, I really wouldn't know of any.
Yep. But sorry, yeah, I guess Amy was trying to respond, but her audio may not be working. But anyone else want to jump in on that? I know Jacqueline, you also had a question in the chat just about just generally what direction we wanted to go with this discussion. So what we're really focused on is looking at the feedback that we've gathered previously, and trying to build off of that, and either add additional points or some ideas how to meet some of these different challenges. So anyone else like to jump in?
Adam, I could speak about for the high school students. I know pretty much pre-COVID, they were definitely very much accessible during the school day and for after-school programming. They pushed in a lot to elementary schools and to the middle schools. They did a lot of stuff more with our students, like helping to tutor.
Mhm.
And when we ran some evening programs at Paxanosa, like family related and community-based programs, a lot of times I did get volunteers from the high school. So right now it's kind of like, because of COVID, it's just been hard. So I know I've been using Lafayette College. We had just finished right before Christmas. We had about 5 students from Landis. We created a program for our parents that really wanted to work on like kind of conversational English, as far as parent teacher conferences, ordering fruits and vegetables from Callan. And we had 15 families participate for 7 weeks, and they all, and it was an in-person event, and they all came each and every week. And it was just a really, really great feedback. So Lafayette's going to be duplicating that again, this spring. So we're looking to elaborate on that, but it would be nice to do something with other languages as well.
Yeah, that's great to hear that the program was successful, and you all were meeting in person over the last 2 years and people were coming out for that.
Yeah, we put a lot of things together, like at nighttime. We're not allowed to really bring anyone from the outside in the building during the day while school is going on. But as far as we've been able to open, we did start the end of last year, we started a one online with Zoom. It really wasn't as successful with, we had some difficulties with people having internet going on versus a phone versus a laptop is also very challenging too when you're trying to kind of do a class. But yeah, we're able to do in person in the evening.
Great. And speaking about challenges with technology, Andrea just texted me and said that the power went out in her apartment. So that's why she dropped off the call. These are just some of the things we deal with in today's digital age, I guess, huh? So I'm gonna call on a couple of people who haven't really jumped in yet. So Tanya, Miranda, did you have any thoughts you wanted to share with the group? Or Eric?
I'm currently just like listening and trying to get caught up on what the direction is. So that's
Okay.
kind of my current status, is just kind of getting caught up on where things are headed.
Fair enough. Thanks for jumping in. Yeah, and if there's something you see here that really touches a key point for you, let us know, and we can kind of go down that pathway. I guess I'd like to kind of circle back on some of the initial feedback here about how do we bring technical assistance to business owners in the area, knowing that there are programs out there, but people may not be taking advantage of them or comfortable, I guess, accessing those types of programs.
There's a lot of services offered by CareerLink, right? Is that downtown Easton? Maybe I don't know enough about that, but if we're talking about like a shuttle bus, could that be something back and forth from CareerLink, or is there a closer one? Anyway, that's coming from someone who doesn't really know. And then I know Tanya just sent something in the chat too, about a bi-weekly book club. So that sounded cool.
Can you see that?
Just as a quick update to the CareerLink, their current location in the Pine Street garage probably won't be for too much longer. I think that project is going to be redeveloped in the next year and a half. So I think the hope is to keep a location in Easton for sure. It just probably won't be where it currently is, just as a heads up. But I think potentially with seeing how the multilingual situation is with Easton in general, I think a lot of the workshops could probably try to tailor to a more, at least bilingual demographic, and just being able to have that comfortability with, you know, learning something in another language is difficult for anybody, and having to, you know, someone there to at least help either do some translating or just help kind of explain things so that, you know, that barrier isn't as, you know, evident, I guess. Because any way to make it more inclusive so that people don't necessarily feel that just because they're not a native English speaker that they can't participate. I think it's something that I'm personally trying to see if they could get, you know, more incorporated in a lot of these workshops.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I see Andreas back on the line.
Thanks for your patience. Sorry about that. My internet went out. Like, it looks like the whole power went out on my building. So yes, I wanted to have, I had a follow-up question for you, Mark. I appreciate the effort, and I appreciate bringing front and center the need of language access in employment opportunities. So on my recent drives to Easton, I can't help but notice a lot of hiring advertisements, like on the road, like those like huge advertisements like on the side of the road saying like now hiring for health positions or nursing health aid or manufacturing jobs, and they look like really decent jobs. They even post like starting rates of 18, 19 or some number of dollars. And I see a lot of those ads everywhere I'm driving in the Lehigh Valley. So I was wondering if as part of the economic development initiative or part of an economic development partnership, we could possibly tap those employers that are actively looking for people. Maybe we could help foster, or maybe we could help them come with an agreement of hiring people from the neighborhood, hiring people that currently live here, and just make it easy for our residents to be considered. Because if they are offering jobs that require like master's degrees and all that, like they are probably looking in the wrong place. but also like we create that bridge, like, okay, we are providing the workforce, and you need to provide something else, you employer. That's what I'm trying to say.
Good idea.
Thank you.
I know from at least the city hall stance. No, I'm sorry, Darius. I just want to just quickly answer this. From the city of Easton standpoint, I know our hiring process, it does put a focus on city of Easton residents first and foremost. As far as other people and employers, that's kind of their own jurisdiction. I think we could definitely try to reach out and try to put that main focus, especially, you know, if you're going to put these advertisements throughout the city, at least putting a concerted effort into having residents being part of that hiring process as well. I agree.
Thank you. Jacqueline, would you like to jump in, please?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie Hudak. I'm the community health liaison for the St. Luke's Anderson, Easton, and Warren campuses. So really that bridge to bridge, Northampton and Warren County. And in the community health department, I love this. I love this drawings. I feel like it's what I see and do every day with our team here around equity and inclusion, and just the work that the community health and our model is as well. So I was just thinking, actually, when you mentioned the jobs, we already try to take that approach, and it can work. You know, for instance, Project of Easton, they do GED classes for the residents right there. And we're partnered with Project of Easton and kind of said, hey, why don't we use your GED graduates and help them get, into our jobs that are high school GED starting positions, and then they can grow in our field as well. So it's a win-win for everybody. We all know jobs are a big need right now. So I know that that's a possible model, and it is realistic and just really works for everybody. But no, I love all of this, and anything that we can do at the hospital level and our large network with all the resources we have available around access, food insecurity, housing, SUD, OUD, naloxone, and we're spearheading the Read Across America that we'll send out to all the school districts. Things like that. Anything we can do to support, I'm happy to connect.
Can you, since I don't know all the acronyms, what is SUD, UED?
Yeah, that's substance use disorder and the opioid use disorder.
Okay.
We have like smoking cessation, healthy living. So we do like healthy living with the gardens and fresh produce. We give out like healthy living packets to all the schools. Then we have our substance use and opioid use disorder, the smoking cessation department, all the liaisons that represent different regions and things like that. So lots of subgroups within our community health department, mental health, of course. I also do QPR training, which is question, persuade, refer, suicide prevention. So I've been doing that a lot in Easton with a bunch of different partners and school districts right now as well, just helping with the mental health aspect. So we're here as a resource as well, anything that we can kind of help and tap into on this.
Fantastic, thank you.
I have a follow-up question for Jacqueline, and this is more of a shameless plug. Sorry about that. Jacqueline, everything that you said sounds really, really, really impressive, and I think that it would be really great if you could join us in a future working group related to health and safety. So if you're interested and you wouldn't mind dropping your contact info in the chat or sending it to me on a private message, I can send you details if you're interested in joining the health and safety working group. Thank you.
Sure. I think my manager, she's our network director, she, I believe, is joining the health one. And then the vice president of our department, Dr. Rajka Reed, is joining the housing working group. So I think that we're covering most of the working groups within this, hopefully, from our department.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
And I just wanted to share some feedback in the chat from Janine. So she's mentioning job fairs, programs about how to apply for a job, participate in the job interview, resume writing would be great. Maybe hold classes downtown at a church and then at school. So just wanted to capture that feedback as well. So I know that there are local organizations like CareerLink that kind of focus on that stuff, but do you all feel that there are job fairs happening in the West Ward or resources like that that are currently accessible to residents? Or do you think that there more needs to be done?
There's a lot of people that don't even really have an email address now.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, you need at least an email address to do anything.
Right.
So I don't understand how a lot of people don't make that bridge, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
when everything turned digital, some people went blank because it's like, I don't know anything about that. So, it turned, I don't know, it's a turn off to people when they can't get it, especially if you're older and you don't get it. It's like, it's real confusing to get.
No, I understand that completely. Having a 14-year-old son who knows all of these different apps and websites and things that I'm completely clueless on. But I do
help me. Yeah, it takes, like they said, it takes a village. It definitely does.
Yeah. So I think what you're really getting to, like the heart of the issue of the kind of the digital divide, that not having training or access to technology holds a lot of people back from opportunities. So do we know, are there any groups that are kind of focused on digital literacy in the city right now? Or is there any initiatives happening?
I know there was some work with Lafayette College. There was a group of students. I think it was Lafayette Easton Alliance, I think is what they were called. They were trying to do some technical assistance along it for businesses, as far as bringing business to the, adding, some technical assistance to the technology side of it, using, getting their internet presence up to speed. I'm not too familiar with residential, just general public workshopping for technology, anything to go with the internet. But it definitely just, even if it's just something as simple as helping people set up like Gmail accounts, just something simple like that could probably be very beneficial to a lot of people.
I agree.
Good
Here
feedback.
in
Yeah.
here in Philadelphia, there is a government assistance program for everyone who receives food stamps or medical assistance. They are entitled to rebate on their internet or their phone bill. So I think that I could probably check if this is a statewide program, and then perhaps try to liaise this service or this opportunity with I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I need to think it through, but you guys can kind of understand where I'm trying to go. Like, it's a
Yeah.
service, it's available, it should be available for everyone, and people just are not aware of it.
Exactly. They're not aware of it. And it is available to everybody in all states.
See, thank you very much.
It's available in a good amount of states. The program is about to change over to, it was broadband at first. Now it's going to be called ACP. And they have the application online that you can do, or they can mail you a paper one. And it only gives you, like $30 off. So it's going to change in February from $50 to $30.
Why
I
is it
know.
going down? It's going the wrong direction. There's another program that could be potentially tapped into specifically around the housing authority properties. It's a HUD program called Connect Home. And it's all about bringing free or low cost broadband service to public housing. So I think that's something else that we should look into in terms of whether it could be a fit for the Easton Housing Authority.
Okay.
Actually,
Sorry, go ahead, Andrea.
just one quick thing. At the bottom of the board, the quick takeaways from the survey data. It actually came out that 79% of residents, 73% of households do not have internet. I wrote that wrong. They do not have internet.
Do not have.
Right. So you guys are totally right. I feel like this should be of primary importance, and it's really great that we're looking at it right now. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a high number for sure.
Can I
And
ask? Oh, sorry.
sorry. No, go ahead.
If you have a smartphone, this might be a silly question, but I'm going back to who was talking about like a Gmail. If you have a smartphone, would you be able to get, if somebody helped you like have a Gmail account set up for you, like would you actually need internet service?
Yes, you
Because
do.
I see everyone has a cell, I'm seeing lots and lots of people with cell phones, but not having email. They don't do email. They don't go, Amy does a lot of posting for the community of different resources, but they're not getting onto Facebook, but they all have cell phones.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
I
I kind of was wondering, like, is there anything that we can like look at with that too?
Mhm.
You could definitely do it with your phone. But I also already have Wi-Fi, so I don't know how it will work if you didn't, especially over here, because even if you have Wi-Fi, it's not like, it goes off sometime. So
Yeah, it just becomes part of your data plan for
Okay.
whatever your phone carrier is. So
I would imagine if you don't have it, then it would probably be a little bit harder to set it up.
When was the data where it said 73% don't have internet? Was how long ago Is that just been data being collected as of, because I'm just thinking all of the students in the West Ward, no matter what school, all have an iPad that they bring home every day, and student wise, I believe there is internet in each home that there's a student in now. Am
Yeah,
I right on that? Or
You're right.
So
right.
the survey was exclusive for participants 18 plus, so 18 years and older.
oh, okay, okay.
And you're totally right. I really think that the survey results are only representative of the people who actually took the survey. So out of the I don't know 150 residents in the West Ward, we only got about 100 answers. So we also needed to. This is why we're still processing the data.
and just to be clear, this is just the housing authority residents. It's not the West Ward.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that also includes the Bushkill House, which is senior and disabled, which, tend to have, I guess, lower digital literacy, I would say, overall.
I mean, not even being funny, but that's true.
Mhm.
Because again, they probably either don't know how to set it up or they're afraid to ask somebody to help them. And even if you help them, how do I access it after you leave? And it's a whole lot that goes along with that, because if you didn't start from the beginning with it, like as far as the computer age, then you get left behind. So that means you gotta really catch up. And a lot of times people don't want to catch up. They're like, oh, forget it. I'll just use my flip phone.
Yep.
True.
So I want to go on to something we haven't really talked about too much here. So just local events in the neighborhood to bring people together. I think somebody brought up the idea of a reading club or outdoor movie nights, but what else should be happening? And I know this is tough to talk about during COVID because it's like we're never going to see each other again. It just seems like we're living in a different world now. But as things start to change back more towards normal, like what types of events do you think would be good to bring people together in the community?
I really can't even begin to go into that. And like you said, because of COVID, you really I know I'm a person that keep my distance because I don't, because we got a bunch of idiots out here. I'm sorry, but that don't wear their mask, to people just walking around just all willy-nilly with it. So
Yeah, no, that's everywhere.
yeah, right. And numbers keep going up. You keep watching it, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, we used to have programs in the 1010 building when they had the kitchen there,
Mm-hmm.
and used to do like little things with the kids, like making necklaces and playing games. Because I used to volunteer at St. Anthony's too.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to work with all of the kids over there. But I mean, they had mad board games and puzzles and drawing and all. I mean, you could do everything there. So
Yeah, and I don't know if have you spoken to Brenda Williams?
no.
So she's looking to actually bring some of that back to
Okay.
Elm Street, to I guess it's the 1010 building, and start to do some art programs and some other activities for the kids. So if you're interested in being involved, like I definitely reach out to her. There's going to be a lot more information about that coming up in the next few weeks. But
Yep.
she's looking to kind of like reactivate that space safely if we can, as things
Okay.
go here.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything here we haven't hit on that you think is really important? Whether it's from the business side of things or more of the education and job training elements.
The job situation will work if employers would also provide some kind of like shuttle situation. Because again, the main thing for us over here is the transportation. It
Yeah.
sucks. Like
Yeah.
nobody can take, like I know somebody that was taking a Uber from over this area all the way to Amazon.
Hmm.
And there and back. That's expensive. You're only working for transportation now.
Right.
You're not getting no money. And if you
Right.
have kids, forget about it because you got to pay a babysitter. So, I mean, you know, something got to give a little bit to make any of it work.
Yeah, and what we had heard from residents that we spoke to over the last year is that the transit system had changed and routes became less convenient and things like that. So I don't know if that's something that you've noticed as well, or if people have kind of
Since
talked
co-
about that. Yeah.
you know what they did? They did a survey like during COVID, which I think sucks because first of all, people weren't riding the bus.
Mm-hmm.
How could you do a survey on your transportation if people aren't really taking the bus because of COVID?
Mm-hmm.
And then they cut services out. I mean, like they got buses that you got to wait 3 hours for. Like the bus is not coming back for 3 hours. I don't know about you, but I don't want to wait 3 hours in the cold for no bus.
No, and you can't plan like a work schedule around that.
Do anything, anything.
Right.
And then don't let it snow or sleep or then everybody's out of transportation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know. I feel like if anything could be done about that, it would probably be better for all of the communities because there's a lot of people that have to, you know, you got to walk a lot of places when you get off those buses because they don't let you off exactly where you're going. So you have like, sometimes you got like 4 or 5 blocks to go
Yep.
when you get there. And some people can't make it 5 blocks.
Well, yeah, that comes down to the accessibility of feeling comfortable walking in the neighborhood, or if you're elderly or disabled, feeling
You're right.
safe getting around. So I think that's part of inclusion as well, as like the physical environment.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share a couple notes from the chat here. So Amy was talking about incorporating churches for religious events to bring people not typically in services to join. That's a good idea. And then Miranda was talking about for social activities, events that could start as virtual and then transition into in-person events, like concerts that are streamed from somewhere in the West Ward that then turn into actually having like a real concert in the neighborhood with local musicians. That's also a cool idea. And I know things like that have kind of been happening through COVID, but having a local version of that would be really cool. And Janine talks about bus stops. The bus stops themselves, like, are they sheltering people from the elements? Just the fact that it takes an hour to get from Paxenosa to Walmart and the runs are not convenient. So that's obviously something we're hearing over and over again. And we would try to come up with some recommendations that we could then share with the local transportation organizations to help address those types of issues. Okay.
Could I ask a question, kind of stepping sort of to the beginning of the conversation?
Mm-hmm.
This sounds silly after there are so many ideas here, but when the title is equity and inclusion, is the focus on racial equity, cultural equity, class? I'm just curious about what is the focus for equity and inclusion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the focus is really what this group wants to focus on and where we think the needs are. And I guess I'm hearing a little bit less about racial equity and class equity, maybe and a little bit more about the physical challenges of getting people from place to place and where they need to be, and maybe challenges related to language and culture. But I'd love to explore other avenues there as well with the group.
I also want to say that I know that the terms are not interchangeable, but I really feel that what we're trying to get to with the survey questions is to identify like barriers to social and economic mobility. So I really think that that's the bottom line, like identifying the barriers to social and economic mobility. So it's not specific to race or to class, it's the general mobility issue.
I agree.
Okay, well, does anyone else want to jump in with any thoughts at this moment, knowing that this is the first of our 3 meetings, so there's going to be a lot more time to share. But I just want to, before we kind of call the meeting to a close, just want to make sure everybody has a chance to weigh in and to get some of their thoughts on the board. Andrea, do you have your hand up again, or was that from before?
Oh, yes, I have my hand up again because you a little bit with your mouse circled around pride. And I think that, well, of course, I was away for like 3 minutes, but I wonder if anyone wanted to talk a little bit about pride, because just in the 6 months that I've been like going to Easton constantly, I have found a lot of like really, really awesome and unique things about Easton, like having the garlic festival and the bacon festival and like that kind of things that are like very, very specific and very local. I just wanted to explore or to put it out there. Do you guys think that there would be ways that we could use the pride and the uniqueness of Easton as a tool or as a driver for some of the ideas that come next?
Good question.
I mean, I would say yes, but again, like due to COVID, we don't, you know what I mean? Like people don't really want to be in big crowds because, you know, we had Heritage Day, we had, I mean, it's a whole Lebanese fest is down there. Like you have all of these different things, but I mean, you know, a lot of people don't show up because they don't want to be in a crowd of people. And I don't really blame them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another question, and thank you so much for your comment, Neris. So I also end up hearing about the Heritage Day and the Garlic Fest and the Bacon Fest. I end up hearing from people that actually don't live in Easton, and they're like, oh yeah, we love going to the festival. So my question is like, well, then who is the pride? Who is the festival for? Really, like I am not looking for an answer right now, but I just want to point it out like an opportunity.
I kind of think that's a good question. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm overstepping my bounds, but I mean, Neris, even when you said down there, I mean, the West Ward and downtown are different neighborhoods. So I don't know. Amy, Tanya, am I misspeaking here to say they're different neighborhoods? So people in the West Ward don't necessarily like proud of Garlic Fest because that's a different neighborhood. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of traction and I'm just aware, but just seems like 2 different places that could either be better connected and or there should be West Ward Pride events. So
yeah, I wasn't saying down there like it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I live up on 11th Street. So when I say down there, I mean downtown.
Mm-hmm.
But if I would have said up there, I would have been meaning like Music Park. They used to have the fair too.
yeah, so, exactly. Which is, I mean, it's geographically true, like downtown, but it just makes it, I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing either. It's just something to note that it's I don't know, what part of Easton are you from? Is that Easton, or are those festivals for the West Ward? I don't know.
No, what? No, it's for
That's
everybody. I wasn't saying it was just for one particular area. I was just saying that those are the things that happen downtown. There's other things that happen up by Mural Park. There's all types of things that happen, and everybody goes to those things. But like I said, since COVID, there's not a lot of people that want to be outside like that. There was people down there, but it wasn't the crowd that you would usually get.
I do kind of wonder, with a lot of the upgrades going to Cottingham Stadium and eventually Vanderveer and then the other parks, and especially in the West Ward, whether like ideas of an Easton Community Day, West Ward Community Day, block parties, etc., could be a chance to kind of really highlight a lot of the local community that exists and kind of reinforce that pride in that neighborhood. You know, I could see it being open to the city, open to, you know, West Ward, just kind of embracing the culture that exists there currently and kind of building off of that, using facilities that are going to be, you know, upgraded over the next, you know, few years. I think could be a lot of potential with that. If that's something that people think would be, yeah, have a lot of interest in.
True.
I wanted to say something about the pride also. I feel like Easton community members, all who I've talked to so far, do take pride in the community aside from the events. Like, I think there's a lot of pride of just Easton as its city. And I say that too with, like, for instance, even like you all are saying, the restaurants and the food. Our president at St. Luke's Easton was so intentional with like making it look like Easton on the inside of that hospital, like with all their new remake and remodeling, because of that pride that they see with our patients, our community members, and things like that. So I do see that there's a sense, and I think that could be advantageous to build on that, you know, and even if, like it was mentioned in the chat about doing a West Ward events or things like that. But aside from that, I mean, I see a difference. I come from Allentown in my previous role, and I see a big difference with Allentown community members versus Easton members and that sense of pride. So I do think that could be advantageous with this kind of work that we're doing.
I agree.
That's great. Yeah, and just to share what was in the chat, let's see here. I agree with West Ward Pride events. I think there are a ton of restaurants that represent the different cultures of the West Ward. A big ethnic food festival would bring a lot of people. Amy wrote, there are a lot of restaurants, food stores. That is something we can build on for Pride. So yeah, maybe it's like a West Ward restaurant week, or Taste of West Ward kind of festival or something like that, that could bring people together.
They do have something like that downtown, where they like trucks, food trucks from the Lehigh Valley as a whole, that will be like downtown, and then you could visit all of them. They give you their addresses, samples, everything. So I have been to one of those events, and it's a really good event.
Cool, great to hear. Okay, well, I think we're kind of wrapping this one up, but I wanted to let everybody know what was coming next. So our second meeting, which will be in February, we will be really taking all these ideas and trying to put them, we're going to create an overall list of like specific project ideas. And then at that meeting, everyone is going to have their chance to rank those ideas in order of importance, at least from their perspective. So we want to be able to come out of that meeting with, you know, some high level priorities. So, okay, this group really thinks that we may have 20 good ideas around equity and inclusion, but there's 3 or 4 or 5 that really rise to the top that need to be part of this plan and that are kind of critical to the success of the project. So that'll be the second meeting. The third meeting, we'll be looking at those priority projects, in particular, those probably 3 to 5 projects. And we'll be getting down to detail about who are the partners that can support this project, and what resources could be available to make the project happen. And so we need your help to help us kind of brainstorm those things and to make sure that we can create an action plan for each of the projects to move it to really to implementation. So that's what's coming down the pipeline. As I mentioned, we also have 4 other working group meetings that will be happening this week. And you can see we did an awesome job filling out our board. I think the other groups will probably do equally well, and there will probably be some ideas that are shared between the groups so if we hear something from community health and safety, we'll kind of bring it back to this group and share it with you all. But I'll also send out I can do it right now. I'll put it in the chat. If you're interested in taking a look at this board, you can click on the link that I'm about to share here. So that'll take you right to this page. I'll also try to send this all the notes and everything in the invite for the next meeting, so you can kind of review and reflect on it. But I just wanted to, as we stop here, I just wanted to thank everybody again for being part of this conversation. I think it was a really great brainstorm, and I'm really excited to kind of see where we're able to take this and how we're going to start ranking these projects. Because we don't want to come out of the group with 50, just a laundry list of 50 projects. We want to be able to think about which projects are really going to have the most impact for the community. Andrea, anything else you wanted to share before we break?
I just wanted to thank everybody for participating. I think that it's really, really great to have all of your input, and we really hope that you join us at the next meeting. Thank you.
And I'm just looking right now to make sure I can let everybody know when our next meeting is. Sorry. Looks like we are going to be on for Tuesday, February 22nd. Hopefully the same time and same place, unless this time seems like it's not working for people, like let us know, then we can send out a poll and figure out a better time. But otherwise, we'd love to see you at that meeting. And there's a couple more people in our group that weren't able to come today. So hopefully we'll get them involved. And if there's anybody else that you think should be here, please invite them, send them the link. We can add people, even as we go into the second and third meetings, because we're always looking for new perspectives on this topic. So thank you so much for being here, and have a great rest of your week, everybody.
You too.
Thank you. Have a good one,
Thank
everyone.
you.